Today I want to talk about the 7 best PCCs and PDWs that you can actually buy. Now I made up this list of guns that are kind of on the budget side, ones that are in the middle, and then some on the upper tier as far as cost-wise. I want to focus on what makes each one cool, unique, and maybe even some of the practical uses as I see it with each one. And of course I want to hear from y'all after the video. What's your favorite PDW or PCC out there? And if you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now keep in mind that there's a wide variety of prices here, but I am working on a video. It's still a few weeks away, but that will cover 7 of the best budget PCCs out there. So make sure you're subscribed, notifications on for that one. First one I want to start with is the MPX Copperhead. And believe it or not, this is actually the very first little PDW that I ever bought. So you have the MPX Copperhead, and then you have the K version of this gun. Now this one specifically has the chest piece flash hider right there, 3.5-inch barrel, and a monolithic upper. The K version actually has a 4.5-inch barrel, and it will readily accept any muzzle device or suppressors way easier than something like this. It also has an M-lock rail and one that can actually be changed, so it's modular. So if you're looking for something that will kind of cater to more of a suppressed gun and something that you can easily put attachments on, this is not the version for you. But one thing that makes this nice is if you're used to AR style controls, this has them. We have the charging handle in the back right here. We have our magazine release, ambidextrous, and we actually have our bolt release, which is ambidextrous as well. Safety selector is ambidextrous, and we actually have a single stage trigger in this one. In the K model, it comes with a Timony trigger, so it's a little bit better as far as, a lot of the features actually. But this one is still pretty cool. I bought this one before I think the K version was even out. You notice that aggressive, sharp angle downwards on the grip right there. It feels really good in the hand. So even though it has an aggressive look, it's not aggressive at all. It's got a really natural feel. I have one of the SIG braces on the back. This, of course, is folding. Now, when I bought this a number of years ago, it came with a telescoping pistol brace, so that's why you have the cutouts on each side of the receiver there. It would fold up and be super compact, and even though I like the aesthetics of that one, this one I think functionally I just like it a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable. None of these braces are like super comfortable, but at the same time, a little bit better when you actually get your cheek down on there. And overall, just a really nice compact package. So if you're looking at a PDW and you want all of the controls of an AR, this is one of the best options out there, and it is super light recoiling. And of course, it's a short stroke gas piston. A lot of these guns are actually direct blowback, so that will lead to a little bit more felt recoil, maybe a little more muzzle rise, a little sharper muzzle rise, but this one being piston driven, it is just absolutely smooth. Probably the second smoothest PDW that I actually own. I don't know, this thing is really smooth too, dude. I know that MP5 is smooth, but this is badass actually. So all in all, the MPX Copperhead is definitely one that I would recommend, especially if you have a little bit more money to spend. Probably go with the K model though if I had to do it again. Either way, the MPX Copperhead is an awesome, awesome gun. Next PDW I want to talk about is one of the more unique designs that we've seen over the years. This is the Chris Vector. Now, if you played any kind of video games, Call of Duty, or really anything that's a first-person shooter, this gun is going to be in there. And at the heart of it, it looks so different than anything else because of their Super V recoil mitigation system. So think about it like this. As opposed to a bolt that traditionally just comes back, that felt recoil is right into your hand, into your arm, and all of that. They actually have a multi-link system. This is a blowback design. So essentially it will come back and then drop down. And so that's designed to mitigate a ton of recoil in the gun. And it actually does do a pretty good job. This one's chambered in 45. You can get them in 9 mil, you can get them in 10 mil as well. And so for a 45 caliber gun pistol like this, it actually does a really good job. Now this one is the enhanced version. So what I have is a sling swivel up here. You got some Picatinny on either side. It is threaded, of course. We do have a side charging handle, lays down flat whenever it's not in use. Now one thing I noticed is that there's such little travel right here, and because of the action, it takes quite a bit of force whenever you're trying to get around chambered. So just keep that in mind. It's not the easiest gun to rack by any means. It's also not hard. It just takes a little bit more force. Here's your bolt release right here. Boom, on the one side of the gun, and that's what I'm talking about right there. You just really kind of have to muscle it again because of that design. So it's just one of the call it a minor flaw in an overall really awesome design. We also have our magazine release right here on the left hand side of the gun. So once you get used to it, you know, you fire, bam, 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 you drop the mag right there, pull it out, boom, you're good to go. We actually have a safety right here, which is very familiar, ambidextrous, of course. It came with a set of backup sights already on it. Now, I wouldn't call these the best sights ever. Matter of fact, I need to tighten these things up because they have loosened up quite a bit. But it does have a Picatinny rail, so you can attach whatever you want to right there. Side folding brace, this is a pistol. They do have them in rifle versions as well. They just look a little bit goofy, you know, and that's kind of one of the distinctions I try to make, is because PDWs with pistol braces are so useful because of how compact they can be. So I think that's really the distinction. If you're going to pick a PCC, then understand its limitations, because a lot of PCCs don't offer the compactness like a PDW does. It may be good for competition, maybe teaching people, but even these are really easy to teach people how to shoot as well. So it just kind of comes down to what you want. And all in all, I think the Kriss Vector just is so unique in its design, and it works as intended by keeping that recoil down. You know, I just really love this gun, and I love the design. I love the overall size. It is a little bit heavier now because of that body and that multi-link system, but it's still not too bad, and it is super compact. They make them in rifles too. They look a little bit silly with that faux suppressor, but at the same time, you can get them if you don't want to mess around with any of the pistol stuff. I just like this size because obviously you can, you know, fold your brace on it, and to me, it just makes more sense to go with something like this as opposed to one of the rifles. One thing I noticed when I was at the range last time is I had my hand a little bit too far back, and when that bolt stop catches and pops up when you're done shooting, it'll pinch you pretty bad. And so you got to make sure I keep my hand up here a little bit. It can be a little bit cumbersome trying to learn these things, but once you learn the controls, they really are a cool and very unique design. Next one I want to talk about is based on the Russian Vityaz. It's actually 100% American made. This is the KP9. Now, the Russian Vityaz was developed in 2004, and it's based directly on the PP19 Bison. Now, what makes these cool is they are built just like the Vityaz in Russia, and instead of having a long stroke piston, they actually have a blowback design. So very similar to like the telescoping bolt that's in like the Uzi Pro, it has that same mass to make up for the gas system that an AK typically uses. But it has many parts that are interchangeable with the AK-74. Now, it actually comes with this muzzle brake straight from the factory, the traditional AK sights, Weaver style rail up top, and it opens up just like an AK. This is actually a hinged cover, same basic recoil design as an AK-74, and of course you have a much beefier bolt in there to make sure that it runs reliably, and it's got that overall really small size. It has a paddle style magazine release, actually comes with 2 of these magazines. Now what makes this really cool is this is the most authentic Russian Vityaz copy that you can get. They went through every part on this thing to make sure that as close as it can be to its Russian counterpart, that it would come close to that. And of course it's semi-auto only, but at the same time, if you want a true 100% American-made Russian copy, this is the way to go, the KP9. Now it has a little bit longer barrel, 9¼ inches, and what I notice is that not only is this super accurate, but for a direct blowback gun, the recoil is actually pretty manageable on this. None of these have a ton of recoil, but when you shoot them back to back, you start to notice little differences there. This one definitely does a good job as far as the felt recoil and how accurate it really is. Now, the next one I want to talk about is one that anybody can own. Now, of course, there's a lot of limitations on magazines and certain design elements depending on the state that you live in, but here's one that requires no paperwork and no worry on your part, plus it works if you own one of the most common pistols in America. If you have a Glock, an M&P, Shadow Systems, or a PSA Dagger, you can actually own one of these. It will turn your pistol into a bullpup PCC. So essentially the way this works is you have your pistol, this contraption right here opens up, you replace your factory barrel with the 16-inch barrel that they give you, you close that up, and now you have a bullpup PCC. Now one of the coolest parts is the factory trigger on your pistol is still used. So it has like a rod that connects to your trigger back here, so you're going to get pretty much the same trigger pull as your pistol. Now, what's cool is they have M-LOK rails at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock position. You can go with threaded or unthreaded. It has the bolt that is ambidextrous, straight from the factory. You can actually get an attachment up here that will hold a spare magazine. That's probably something I would definitely add to this one for sure. Pistol grip and all of that feels very natural. I actually have a forward hand stop and a thumb rest on the side right there. Gives me a really solid purchase. Shell deflector right here. Of course, our magazine release is in the back, similar to a bullpup, just right there on the side. Depending if you're left or right-handed, they have one on both sides there, or if your gun is ambidextrous. So boom, you just press that in, release your mag, pop a new one in there. It also has an adjustable stock back here in the rear with a little lever, and you can just pull that out and adjust it as needed. And they make them for a bunch of popular pistols. That's the nice part. This one's actually for an M&P. And overall, this is a really slick design because you don't have to send it to an FFL. You don't need any kind of paperwork. It's just a piece of plastic at the end of the day, but a piece of plastic that can really do something cool with a pistol that you already own. Now these things range from like $500 to $600, which I think the price on them is already good, but they actually do discount them through my channel as well. So if you use the link and the discount code in the description, you can save yourself quite a bit of money on these things. Helps me as well, and so it's pretty much a win-win. But if you want one of the more budget-friendly options to work with a pistol you already have, the Meta Tactical Apex is the way to go. I know I made some people upset a few weeks ago when I talked about 7 of the most worthless guns you can buy, and I put the CZ3 Plus carbine on the list, but I also said that this in a pistol configuration is much better than the carbine. Because if I'm going to reach for something like this, at the end of the day, I probably want to run with a rifle because, you know, anything past 100, maybe 200 yards, you know, I'm going with something that I know will be effective at that range. But at the end of the day, this is still one of the coolest PCCs that you can actually buy. Holla. So if you want a full length PCC, something for competition, something that you can teach people on, maybe even home defense, the 3 Plus carbine has been one of the better options. And these things are priced relatively well, at least considering the market for these things, because they're all, you know, kind of expensive, but I try to keep the price as low as I can. And I think these are one of the better built and lower priced PCCs that you can buy. But again, if I were to go back to it, I would probably get the pistol version and put a brace on it. Now, when I bought my carbine, the pistol brace stuff was still going on. So I decided, hey, I'll just get the carbine version. But the pistol definitely does have some more benefits, especially when it comes to the compact nature of this gun. Now this is the Evo 3S1. So it has the paddle release back here, has the bolt release on the left-hand side, a little bit different safety lever on this one. That's something that they've kind of changed on the 3 Plus carbine. It still gets in the way a little bit, but not as much as the older one like this. Much improved backup sights. They already come straight from the factory. And of course you have Picatinny rail on the top. Now you'll notice the swept back grip on this old design. I definitely like the newer one much better. It's much more comfortable. It is adjustable too, and we have more standard controls over here while retaining the side charging handle, because that to me is one of the best features of this gun. I can slap it down like an HK style gun, or if I have a empty magazine in there, I actually have a bolt release right here. Pop a new mag in, drop the bolt right there. It's ambidextrous. Boom, you're good to go. Safety selector is also ambidextrous. M-lock rails, 3, 6, 9 o'clock position right there. And one thing that does make this super useful though is the fact that we have a folding stock. So it makes it a little bit better. We got a faux suppressor right here, but it has 1/2x28 threads up underneath it. And just overall, when you look at this gun, what does it have? It has the cool factor. And these things are made right here in the USA. And so overall, I really love this design. I just kind of wish the pistol brace thing would have been settled before I bought this one, because I definitely would have went with the pistol version. All the way around though, again, if you want a competition shooter, if you want something you can train somebody on, or maybe even home defense, the CZ Scorpion 3 Plus carbines or the pistols is a great way to go, and at a reasonable price. Now, probably the fastest running PCC that I own is the St. Victor. This thing is absolutely incredible. And so what Springfield Armory did is they took their Saint line and they made a dedicated 9mm platform. Now, it has one of their free-floating 15-inch handguards, super thin. So if you do a thumb over bore, actually move that in just a little bit, just like that, boom, really easy to attach stuff, but super minimal at the same time. They have one of their muzzle drums that's kind of, integrated underneath the rail, so a very clean look. We have spring-loaded flip-up sights, boom, just like that, already come on the gun. Nickel boron trigger, flat face, AR style controls, and when you pull that trigger, ambidextrous safety by the way, and it does have a 45-degree throw. Trigger is super smooth. Reset, boom. Very little grit or travel. This thing is freaking awesome. We have enough Picatinny rail space up here. We can run our red dot, and of course we have our backup sight there in the rear. Extended Raptor style charging handle. I actually put the Radiant Raptor charging handle on this one. It uses Colt pattern magazines, comes with 2, and it comes with its own case, which is pretty cool. Now, instead of being a gas system like the St. Rifles, this one is actually direct blowback, 70-75 T6 aluminum lower and the upper. It's got a melanite coated barrel, B5 system stock, trigger guard, and grip. This thing, like I said, is one of the fastest running PCCs that I own. And I think if you were to run competitions or anything like that, and you want all the way around just an AR pattern PCC, and you want full length, obviously, this is absolutely one of the best. They really did a fantastic job on this gun and slimming everything down. It's always funny when I see these and I think about, the older days, just a decade ago when you had Picatinny rails freaking everywhere and everything was just big and bulky and all of that. And now you get rifles that are just like this. And of course, chambered in 9mm. This thing is a freaking tank, and it's built right too. MSRP is like $12.99 on these, and so you can get them at a fairly reasonable cost. But again, when you pick this rifle up, you're like, okay, I can see where that extra cost is coming from. There's no doubt this thing is quality, and they've done a really fantastic job at mirroring everything on the Saint rifles in a dedicated 9mm platform. And if you had any doubts about me not showing the SP5, I want to put those to bed, because I think when it comes to the world of PDWs, for overall smoothness and just uber reliability and shootability, the SP5 is where it's at. This is the real McCoy. Now, of course, there's a lot of, MP5 variants out there, but this is the HK SP5. So we have our side folding charging handle. Of course, we can, work it just like that. We have our paddle release, and they have an American style, push button release. I always use that paddle release because it just works so much better in my opinion. We have a threaded barrel and a tri-lug adapter. We have the diopter sights on there. And then I put one of the SB tactical braces on here, side folding, boom. And when it comes to just subguns, I don't know that there's a more recognizable and just iconic subgun than the SP5. Ambidextrous safety right there. And what makes this thing really special is the roller delay blowback. It is so smooth at the range. Now remember when I said the Copperhead is the second smoothest PCC I own, or PDW that I own, the MP5 or SP5 is the smoothest. They just do a really fantastic job. It's so crazy too, man, when you look at a design like this that's from the 60s and it's still trucking along. It really is freaking impressive. Now, I was able to get a little cheap Bushnell and put it on there. Of course, mounting optics can be a little trickier. I got this Picatinny rail piece that mounts on there good, but I only have 3 slots, so I had to choose something with the correct riser to be able to get anything on there at all. And since I put that thing on there, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man, I know it is a cheap dot, and it doesn't really belong on this gun. I should put a Aimpoint Pro or something like that. But for what I was doing, because I knew I was shooting this video, I just wanted to get it to the range with some kind of dot on there. And this is what I had laying around. I wouldn't take this thing to war, but I will say at the range, this thing did a pretty fantastic job. That's all I'll say right there. Again, I know it does not belong on this gun. Now, one thing about these is it is the smoothest one I own. It's probably the coolest one I own. It's also the most expensive PDW that I own. These things range like $3 grand. So they are very, very expensive. But I'll tell you, if it's something that you want to save or buy, this is one of it's just awesome, man. And it's iconic, and definitely lives up to the hype. So I hope that I was able to give you some good options here, as far as some that are more budget friendly, some that are middle of the road. A lot of them actually are middle of the road. And then of course a little bit more expensive options with the Copperhead and the SP5. But again, I have some really good budget PCCs and PDWs, and that video I am currently working on. So again, if you like what I do, consider subscribing and turn those notifications on. And then if you want to join us and help support us further in what we do, you can do that through Patreon or right here on YouTube and never have to leave the site. Big thanks to you guys for watching. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.